Good morning. Today is it's Friday. It's the Friday after the 4th. I'm not going to guess the date. I didn't look. We are in the Green Mountains. We are fairly close to the center of the Green Mountains, and we're hiking north into an area that I was in a couple of years ago. Found some tracks along the way. And for those of you who remember, a couple of years ago I posted a video of a video clip of a moose retreating from a beaver pond. That's the area that we're heading towards today, doing a kind of a return there. That's our plan. We're trying to beat some thunderstorms later in the day too, so we're here pretty early. It's about 7:30 in the morning. There's a fog lifting. It was very thick coming in. And other than that, we're going to get moving and the day will take the form that it does. Thanks. And we're back for segment one. We're probably a little bit of half a mile our way towards our destination. Lots of common newts around. Lots of moose tracks. Lots of moose tracks in different individuals because the tracks are vaguely, subtly of different sizes. So, I mentioned in the intro, this is where I got a moose video clip the other time. And there's definitely sign of many, well, several different individual moose, because I've seen like 3 different sizes of moose tracks, all of which look fairly recent. So the day is potential, the fog is lifting. So I was initially kind of off-put by, rather towards the thought of droning, because every time you try to drone in the fog, your GPS sensor doesn't seem to like the moisture in the air that much. But it seems to be burning off, as I had hoped. So this is a good thing. Other than that, my allergies are killing me, but that's life. That's life in the outdoors in the summer. And potentially other seasons, but also looking along the ground, because I have found tracks in here before too. And not just, vague shaped ones, like with actual like toe impressions. So in previous years, activity has moved away from the 5 bogs north into this area. So there's that. And I could have done this way, or gone the way where I cross a couple of rivers, but with looming potential for thunderstorms, I'd rather not be wading knee deep in a freaking stream that they call a river. More a stream than a river, but I'd rather not be doing that in a thunderstorm. Because in the summer, and particularly in the mountains, things like that seem to roll in a lot quicker. So it, in fact, last year I had to sort of abandon my, one time I got out kayaking because a storm rolled in within 5 minutes. So always good to have some flexibility. That entire stretch is nothing but moose tracks. Interesting. And, well, you got deer tracks too, my bad. Bambi's in the neighborhood too, but that would be to be expected. So, I guess an announcement too. In the next week or two, the area I was at last, where I said there might be a potential for base camp, if the plan comes together, we are going to set a base camp up there for at least an overnighter and see what happens. Seems like a good spot for that kind of thing. And from there, I may stay the weekend, or, well, the week that's too far out to, my schedule can change in a week, so I like to do both days of the weekend, but we'll see how that goes. And we'll take it from there, but might be being joined by another network member for that overnighter later in the evening. But that's all right. So have some logistics to plan for that. Today we're going to basically reevaluate this area. And again, so far no actual tracks, just a lot of moose tracks, although they seem to have taken a break. So at this point, we're gonna take a break in the segment and cover some ground, as that flew directly into my eye, and we'll return after. Thank you. So it's about half an hour later. We stopped at the first of, I think it's 2 or 3 little beaver ponds in here, checking the muddy flats for tracks. We are definitely in a moose-rich area, but I took a picture of another one that's, well, it doesn't have definite definition. It's definitely something that put its foot down in soft mud and doesn't look like a moose hoof at all. So I have that to bring home. The areas where I found tracks before are a lot drier this time, so conditions are not quite as ideal. But we are finding things. Hold on. We are finding things as time goes on. And you never know. Just a quick update as we make our way deeper in. And we will take things from there. Thanks. Okay, we are back. We have, actually on our way back, we have been to a couple of beaver ponds. There are no shortage of deer flies landing on the camera. I don't know if the audio is picking up. They're buzzing. They're quite the nuisance. I'm amazed I didn't see a moose today. There are moose tracks literally everywhere through here. I gotta get some game cams up in here. Beyond that, we did find one impression. I'm not going to call it a track per se. An impression that is not a moose, not a person. Not really sure what it is. I took a picture of it for later review. Both drones are playing nice today, so there's a lot of drone footage to go through. First time I've actually had a drone up this far in and had a chance to get a aerial view from about 350 feet in the air of what's about around here. A couple of nice little ponds further out if you're willing to go through the... In some areas this is fairly thick and you'd be going about 1,600 feet, which doesn't sound like a lot until you factor in terrain, tree thickness, and then you need a compass to keep on the right direction so you don't overshoot it. Neither pond was really huge, but could be, it's always a good place to look for tracks because especially if you have a water source, again, this has always been my foundation theory in a place like this. If something is a corporeal living creature that conforms to all the other habits and norms and nature's demands on a large mammal, it needs to sleep, it needs to reproduce, but more than it needs to eat or anything else, it needs water, it needs to drink to live. And to that end, it's going to go for water sources, so you focus on where they are, and I think you greatly increase your chance of running into one. And I have found a couple of likely to possible tracks this year already, and they are near water sources. Big surprise, but then you learn the stream system, and by that where the rivers and streams connect with the ponds. And yes, you can use the trail like I am right now to intersect or get an ingress to these areas and save yourself a lot of time. But if you're feeling more adventurous or you have a whole weekend or something, then by all means follow the streams if you can. And there's been a couple of times where I've gone at least a short ways when it's hot. Like, I mean, today it's the middle of July, so it's, well, early July, but still hot and muggy, so I don't really mind jumping into the knee-deep but otherwise alpine cold mountain stream water because it is freezing, believe it or not. And it is very refreshing in the heat, so I don't really mind traveling that way for a ways to cover some ground and water, as the case may be. I'm actually probably due to do that again. Find some stream system that's, well, I have a few, but the last time I went down that way, there's two ways you can go. You can go straight through, cross 3 river streams and get more. It does more or less head in this direction. If you want to go, I don't know, from that direction it's probably a good 6-7 miles, but or you can kind of take a left or a right and follow the river system itself and get into some other areas. And if you get out of your comfort zone, at one point you're fairly near a river, forest road, and you can get yourself back to the road and safety and backtrack that way if you need to. Otherwise, keep going and just bear in mind that if you are going to do something like that, from my own experience, you're going to want something on your feet with traction because the rocks are slippery, and rather than something that's going to keep your feet dry, because it isn't going to happen, they're going to be cold, they're going to be wet. Take the path of least resistance, but have something with traction. I mean, like sandals, those outdoorsy sandals with decent tread are probably as good as anything else, clinging to the rocks. Other than that, I'm trying to think of some other places. I mean, next week or the week after, we are going to return to the base camp of the Big Southern Bog. and we will spend an overnight there because I've wanted to do that for a while. And that's far enough out that you're basically in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a big swamp. You can get in and get out by day, but once you're in there, I think it's a fair assessment that you're best off probably just staying put and seeing what wanders by. It's more the matter of the things I'm going to bring for that. I have an infrared spotlight I have not used forever and a day. That would be an interesting thing to bring in conjunction with night vision. Definitely be bringing my night vision binoculars, because you're basically getting a ringside seat throughout the entire swamp. That's a rarity. So I'm looking forward to that. Now for the rest of the day, we are kind of on our way back to the car. We're not necessarily leaving. We're going to move to another area, having covered. There's no signs of life or activity in here so far, other than that odd impression, which is, it's not overly defined, but it's of the right shape to be of sufficient interest to record it and then take a look at it later. I'd be remiss if I didn't. It is about the right size for one of the ones I've seen in here, but not a lot of definition. And the thing that my skeptical side is basically saying that the nature of the track, and when you see the picture, I think you'll see what I mean. The lack of definition is kind of interesting, considering you're talking about soft pond side mud. If you're walking along that in bare feet, you should have toe impressions. No ifs, ands, or buts. You should have a solid foot impression defined, and there shouldn't be any two ways about it. Anyway, we are going, I mean, we can ramble on the camera for the rest of the trail, but I don't really see any point in that. So unless something interesting happens, little rambling trailside banter to give the outputs of the day. I think so far I've flown the drone. Drone time, you have to understand, is typically battery life. Depending on the drone, I have two that average between 15-20 minutes and another one that does 30. And I brought the shorter life one with one battery, so I've got about probably 10 minutes of aerial footage from him, and then another combined 15-20 from the other one. But I have two batteries left on him, so that's, you can take some time with that. But from here, we are going to take a break from the segment and concentrate again on covering ground. And if anything else happens of interest, we will change our mind on that. Thank you.